It's Toni Time! Toni Storm is all elite, and she was the debut here in the Owen Hart Foundation Cup Tournament as the surprise opponent for the Bunny, and she got a lovely, wonderful reception, and she seemed genuinely overwhelmed by this reaction. I am Luke Owen, DAD, your real Jam That Champion, and I'm joined by the fakest man in the room, Chopper Pete Cornell.
The real Jam That Champion.
Who has told me that he wants his new nickname to be Peanut.
That's not true, Luke.
I was really debating whether I was going to bring that up. But then...
got brought up in the office, but I don't even know how we got to it. Where it was...
Look, I tell you what it was. It's because you and Andy were messing around with his bobble hat, throwing it around on the floor. And then Andy said to you, pick it up. I said, did you just call him Peanut?
Yeah,
and then we all went, that's a great new nickname for Pete. And then you said, and I quote, I love that nickname.
I did not say that. I said, for God's sake, I have too many nicknames. That's what I said. And also, we weren't messing around with the hat. Andy kept putting it on my desk. So I threw it back on his desk.
So you were messing around with the hat.
So he put it back on my desk. So I threw it back on his desk. So he put it back on my desk. So I threw it on the floor.
So you were messing around with the hat.
He was messing around with the hat.
This episode is sponsored by Surfshark VPN. It is the WrestleTalk Podcast VPN of choice. If you are in America and you're thinking to yourself, it's WrestleMania this weekend, I really am looking forward to it, but God, man, I do not want to use Peacock because it's more like P-Butt. I actually want to use the proper WWE network. You can do. Surfshark VPN gets you access to the proper WWE network, which we still have here in this country for the time being, until we also get Peacock and I lose my sweet, sweet network.
I know, it's going to be so sad.
Also, it protects you when you're doing bank transfers and things like that because the internet is a scary place and people are trying to access all of your stuff. So head on over to the link in the video description down below or the one that's being posted into the chat by our wonderful moderating team and use the promo code WTPodcast for 83% off and 3 months for free.
I saw in the chat while you were doing that, I struggled to keep my laugh in because I was just looking at the chat and obviously people were talking about the peanut thing. And then I saw someone just put Pete Nut and I was like, no, that's so much worse.
Oh, Peanut.
That sounds like a command and that's not something I want to do, I'll be honest.
Deary me. So the main talking point we want to open with today is the latest in a long string of debuts that we have had. If you go onto the WrestleTalk Podcast channel, we've got like all of our reviews, and playlists. So you got all the Raw reviews together, all the SmackDown and Rampage reviews together, the NXT reviews together, and the AEW ones. Basically, it's like every other week is X is all elite, and then another there'll be a week about something. And then the next one is X is all elite, and it's just that we've had like Keith Lee, Danhausen, Isaiah Swerve Strickland coming in, and now Toni Storm is the latest addition to this roster. I am beyond thrilled because I love Toni Storm. I think that she is an incredible talent. One of those talents where you're like, can't believe WWE would drop the ball with this sort of person. Having said that, I don't think we ever really gave WWE enough of a chance for them to drop said ball because she had a great run in NXT UK. She had a pretty good run in NXT. She came to the main roster, got a pie thrown in her face, and that was pretty much the extent of it.
Yeah, I think they didn't use her correctly. From her time in NXT UK was great. Her time in NXT was like she lost a lot of matches that she probably shouldn't have, and it was a bit hit and miss. There was some good moments, some bad moments.
I'd like to see her do a heel run though.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But then on the main roster, immediately go into a feud with Charlotte Flair. That's great.
Yeah.
And it's about pies. That's not great. So it was, again, a bit of a mixed bag on that one.
I'm glad that you're doing this show today instead of Ollie, because he smells.
Mainly that, yeah.
And also because he's ill and I don't want him to get his dreadful lurgy. But you reviewed all of Toni Storm's entire time on the main roster as part of the SmackDown podcast with Tempo.
Yeah.
It was I think there was a week where all of a sudden she got a gimmick. And that gimmick was like, she's a rock star now.
Hated that week because she did a promo where she was like, she just listed a bunch of like 80s music artists, and I was like, I have the heart of Madonna, and I have the drive of this person, and I have the I don't know, the whatever, insert other good quality here and other 80s music artist here, and it was just really bad was what it was. And then they were just like, well, she loves rock music. That's the full extent of it.
It's not what people wanted from a Toni Storm.
Not at all. No.
Now I'm very.
And she got a pie thrown in her face.
And she got a pie thrown. And in fairness, she also threw a pie too.
Well, she threw a pie. She also got pied in the face twice, and then didn't do anything while Charlotte was standing in front of her. She looked like a massive idiot.
Yeah,
basically.
It wasn't good.
Yeah.
So the hope here is that we can get the proper Toni Storm, the Toni Storm that we would like to have seen, the kind of the Toni Storm we did get to see in NXT UK, the Toni Storm that we fell in love with in Stardom, and all the great work that she's done around the world, because she is an incredible talent. She's got an amazing look. She looks like she carries herself like a mega star, and that's really, really awesome. And we'll talk about the match now, and then we'll kind of go into some thoughts afterwards, because she came out here. There wasn't like a huge sort of fanfare about it. They were, promoting throughout the show. Surprise opponents, surprise opponents, surprise opponents. It had been reported in the week that she was in talks with AEW. Athena, the former Ember Moon, was also in talks with AEW. So it was either going to be one of those two. I think most people had figured it was going to be Toni Storm. There were Toni Storm signs in the crowd. And she got this really great reaction coming out. They cut to this guy who's just basically going, yes! He was so happy to see her.
Great. Yeah.
Delightful. You love to see it. And then she genuinely looked like she was going to cry.
Yeah.
And it was like all the emotions just hit her to be like, oh, this is a great feeling. Like, this is the sort of crowd reaction you kind of work towards getting, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think it was it was like a hard switch between I'm going to let my emotions come over me, and then she gets to the ring, she's like, wait, I need to be serious. And then kind of went back to serious face and was staring off against the bunny. But occasionally you saw like those bits of emotions like coming through, and that was really sweet. Yeah, great reaction for her. I will say, I hate to be the one that brings up the criticism immediately. I would have preferred them to like make more of a deal about it. For example, on like Keith Lee's debut, the bit although it was going to be a surprise entrant, and he had Isaiah Cassidy in the ring, like hyping up, yeah, and then Keith Lee's music hit, and he goes, "Oh God, I've screwed up." Crowd's going nuts, commentators going nuts. Oh my God! Whereas this one, the commentators were like midway through a sentence. Tony Storm's going to go, "Oh look who's here!"
It really was
Toni Storm.
Like it's Toni Storm, by the way.
Well,
guys.
Cool. And that was it. And it wasn't really built to be more of like a, oh my God, it's Toni Storm. Because she is that kind of talent for me. She's someone who could literally not just be the top of the women's division. She's one that could, just be top of any company. She's that good.
She's great. And I do agree with you on that. I did think that it was like that's why I said earlier, like, it didn't feel like there was a huge amount of fanfare to it. Not to say that it was downplayed.
No.
But it wasn't like, it didn't feel like some of the superstar debut reactions that they have given us with, say, Swerve Scott, or you mentioned Keith Lee there, even to an extent Danhausen.
Yeah,
with Danhausen, like with the spot that he got in the Orange Cassidy Adam Cole Lights Out match. But like pushing that negativity to one side. She then had a pretty good match there with the Bunny. She got to do all of her usual shtick and stuff. The Bunny made her look really good. The Bunny was going out of her way to like make Toni Storm was the star here, so she was going out of her way to make herself look really good as well. And she won with the Storm Zero. And afterwards, and I've watched this back quite a few times, she wins the match, and then she's just, again, like that emotion kind of like comes over us, and she gets laying on the ropes, and she just says, "Thank you." And it was, and it just makes you love her all over again, because she is that sort of talent.
Absolutely, yeah. And the Storm Zero turned into a pile driver version rather than the kind of like the Tiger Driver that she was doing in WWE. That's cool. Like that variation. And I really liked, I think the match started off a little bit slow, but once it picked up, it got really, really good towards the end. Really good stuff. Also, there was a great sell from Toni off a super kick that the Bunny did, where she just like planked and just fell backwards. It was delightful.
And that was off the back of a no-sell as well.
Yes.
So like the Bunny hits this super kick and she no-sells it, does like the whole like, and then she hits another one, but tree falling in the woods like.
Straight.
But yeah, so it was really good. I thought it was by the end, very good presentation for her. She has now qualified for the Owen Hart Foundation Cup tournaments.
Yes.
And they announced on Rampage as well that Sky Blue is going to be taking on Jamie Hayter. And Jamie Hayter and Toni Storm have had some bangers in the past. So I almost feel like them announcing that for Rampage was their way of being like, oh, hey, Marks. Oh, by the way, you're going to get this in the tournament as well. Because like that came up and I was like, brilliant. Jamie Hayter's getting something to do. Like, that's really good. She can have a really good run through this tournament. And then I'm like, what if they're on the same side of the bracket? What if they're on opposite sides of the bracket? Like, there's some really nice like teasing and stuff in there.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited for the future of that. I thought Toni looked great in her debut. Really happy she's in AEW. Good stuff all round. Just thinking of the future of Toni Storm in AEW, though.
That's what I was going to come to next. Yeah.
Ollie mentioned this in his edited review as well. He doesn't have the faith that AEW will not Ruby Soho Toni Storm.
That is exactly what I was going to say. I haven't seen Ollie's review yet, but I was literally almost about to say word for word. We did say this about Ruby Soho when she came in All Out. Like, she got that amazing reaction. The emotion got all like it was like pouring out of her, and you're like, "Oh my god, yeah! Look, that's a superstar right there. Like, that is finally we're getting to see the Ruby Soho that we wanted to see in WWE, but we didn't really get." And then we haven't really had anything with her since. Like, she had the run with Britt Baker, and they headlined the New York show, and now she's won some matches on Dark Elevation.
Face Jade Cargill.
Well. And she got to the finals, I think, of the TBS tournament. But it was just like, it's not been the most inspiring run. Like, I made the argument on a previous episode. I can't remember how long ago this was now, but like, of the 3 big debuts on that show with her, Cole, and Danielson, you kind of look at what Cole and Danielson have done, where they're on TV every single week, and Cole just main evented a pay-per-view, and Danielson has he's been on every pay-per-view they've done since then. He has been in multiple different types of feuds, as has Cole, for that matter. And I don't think you can say the same for Ruby Soho.
No.
And there is always the argument when it comes to AEW and its women's division that this could just be the tournament, and then that might just be it. Yeah. It's not like she'll still be there, but it's not going to be like... I mean, I want to be proved wrong here.
Same.
I want to be proven wrong, but it's it's hard to find the faith in the company when they have done this for the past 3 years.
Absolutely, and I think we have a lot of goodwill when it comes to AEW for a lot of stuff they do. The women's division is not one of them, unfortunately. They have quite a bad track record with their women's division. So, as great as it is that their women's division is getting more and more of this really good talent, they need to use them properly. They have so many good wrestlers already.
Utilize them.
They just need to use them better.
Yeah, like more segments than the ones that we get at the moment. Like, Ollie made the point last week, it was all of the women's stuff was condensed into a 15-minute segment. At least here it was like spread out over the show.
I was going to say, Ollie mentioned in his edited review, which I think was a little bit unfair, saying that it was always 15 minutes of women's stuff, and he, in his review, said it was did all the women's stuff in a very short section. I was like, that's not what happened on the show.
I think they spread it out a bit more.
Yeah,
it felt slightly more even, but it is a case of there's just one women's match. But at least, Thunder Rosa actually got to cut a promo this week.
Thunder Rosa did a promo, so that's nice.
Yeah. So, it's, I suppose you can always say it's baby steps with this company, but it's
not enough.
I don't think it is enough, and it's I do agree with you though. I don't think it is enough, and I think it is a case of this company's only 3 years old, and like I remember when me and Ollie always used to rag on AEW for its portrayal of women's wrestling. People would be like, "Oh, well, it took WWE 20 years to get to that point." I'm like, "Well, yeah, but that AEW's didn't start in the 2000s.
Yeah,
it started in 2019
Yeah,
when women's wrestling was a much bigger deal than it was, say, in 2000s North America. You know what I mean? So like, I don't think it is good enough, but I'd like to be proven wrong.
As would I. And I'm hoping that with this Owen Hart Cup, that I said this about the TBS tournament as well, that this can kind of be the kickstart of showcasing more women and getting them more featured more regularly, because at least they'll have the tournament.
The TBS tournament I thought was actually pretty solid.
The TBS tournament was very good, and
it made a star out of Jade.
It did, but it hasn't been followed through, is what I mean. Like, since then, it's been like Jade Cargill has been great.
Yeah.
Everyone else from the TBS tournament is like, they haven't really sustained that level of featuring women all the time. That they
Can
have
you name
then.
many of the other people that were in the tournament outside of, like, Ruby got to the finals, but Thunder Rosa and Nyla Rose were in it. They were the final 4.
Thunder Rosa lost because Mercedes Martinez debuted. Yeah.
But anyway, again, pushing that negativity to one side, looking at the positive side of this, thumbs up for Toni Storm. Because when she got her release from WWE, she was one of those talents they were like, man, I hope that AEW pick her up. I remember, it was in Five Select report about Athena, where they were like, there was some interest gauged between AEW to Athena whether she want to come in, but it was never like heavily sort of pushed for, right? Like that's kind of what sort of, and that's, I think that is kind of says a lot about AEW, because then you look at Keith Lee, whereas like the report, Keith Lee said in an interview that he basically got the phone call the following day.
Yeah.
I think it speaks volumes.
It certainly does, but in a vacuum, in a bubble, this debut was very good.
Certainly was, but let's get into your Ultra Chats and see what you thought of this episode of AEW Dynamite. Micah Traub says, I'm tentatively excited for Toni signings. They definitely gave her more of a welcome than most women. However, Mercedes' shirt isn't even showing up in the store, and it hasn't been fixed in weeks. As a pandemic-era fan, I don't know most of these signings beyond their names. It's been a real issue for me to watch dude after dude signed with much fanfare, while women like Marina were slipped quietly into the dark without as much of a graphic. Still love this company, but do better. Jam it up, bros.
I agree.
Yeah. Wholeheartedly agree.
Yep.
Kevin says, I need Moxley's hoodie. Take my money, AEW. While watching Bryan versus Yuta, I realized that Bryan is actually my favorite wrestler of all time. That match slapped. Show was really good, even if the focus was on in-ring quality rather than advancing stories.
Yes and no.
Yeah,
I'll talk more about the advancing stories later, but
yeah,
I'll also say that match slapped, literally.
Right, yeah. Hey, yo. I may be biased here, but I thought, but that Yuta Danielson match was fantastic. So happy for Wheeler. At the same time, my God, that was brutal. Regal being on commentary was the icing on this violently delicious cake. Love you guys because I can jam that jam.
Yeah, I agree. William Weagle was such a shift on commentary. It was delightful.
Hannah Allen says, here is $7.50 of my finest Australian dollars.
I love Australian dollars. Keep sending them in. I'm not Ollie, who's going to hate on currencies.
Australian. AEW is live. Load of love, boys. I'll be there WrestleMania weekend. How fudging cool was the Batman, for fudge's sake? The deleted scene bloody swears. You guys fudging rock. You make me so happy. Lots of love. We love you, Hannah Allen.
I haven't seen the Batman, sorry.
And lastly for now, Charles Berg. I'm glad Punk explained what that gesture meant. I thought maybe he had diarrhea. I'll wait till Yuta fights someone not named Bryan Danielson to see if he actually gets over. Because Bryan Danielson can make the great Khali look like Bret Hart. Jam that jam.
It's a fair point, but I'd also say that Wheeler Yuta's already had some very good matches elsewhere in AEW history. So, yeah.
Actually, I'm going to do a couple more here because they are related to Toni Storm. The Rick Petch says, agree with Ollie. This feels to be one of AEW's weaker periods of TV. Women's segments are really lacking, being compressed, and I didn't like that main event segment due to being bored by AHFO versus Sting and Darby. Loved Sting's clothesline on Jose on the ramp. And Ten Russell said, we're so incredible seeing Toni Storm. She did so good, and hats off to the bunny as well. I want Regal out on commentary permanently. He's a global treasure. Love Meltzer saying Cody might be back out of Mania, the WWE deal. If he does, hilarious. Brian Yuta, yes, Punk is great. I've missed that.
I've missed that as well, but if it's Shane O'Mac against Seth,
I missed that.
The greatest thing ever.
Hold on. Cody Rhodes. Do you know what? I'm going to go to WrestleTalk.com.
See if they've reported it.
Let's see. That's the real reason why Shane McMahon's returning WrestleMania. That's just for the Hall of Fame, apparently.
Yeah. Well, Heyman explains why he's not surprised about Cody. Where was this news?
Huh. Okay, well, we'll keep an eye on that. If someone can keep an ear to the ground, perhaps. Right, anyway. Oh, no, sorry. This episode is sponsored by Surfshark VPN. Get yourself an excellent VPN service, and Surfshark is the one to get. It is a superb service. We all use it here in the WrestleTalk offices. It's how I've got HBO Max. Shh, don't tell anyone. Shh. It's like when I got the WWE Network before it launched over here by using, it was a different VPN, admittedly, and you have to put in an address. Like an American address. Yeah. So I just Googled Walt Disney World Resorts. So that is my address.
Amazing. I'm very surprised you didn't do WWE headquarters.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. Yeah. I was like, the first American street I could think of was like Walt Disney World Resort. What's the address of that? What's a postcode? And I'll just put that in. But yeah, it's an excellent service. And if you use our link in the video description and the promo code WT Podcast, you get 83% off and 3 months free.
Hell of a deal, that.
Hell of a deal. Right, let's talk about this episode of Dynamite. For me... So, what did Ollie score this episode?
70%.
And he thinks it's one of the weaker periods of TV.
Yeah, and he said that it was like a decent filler episode. He said that some stories were advanced, but it was fine. The women's stuff he said was bad. Basically, like the treatment of the women's division is still bad and needs working on. And said, what was it? He said that Blackpool Combat Club is still amazing and the best thing going in ever. And said that, what was the thing? He said that their biggest stars right now don't have the titles.
He is such a moron,
he
that
is,
lad.
And he said the titles feel secondary because they're not on their hottest stars currently.
I have no idea what he has got against Hangman Page.
He hates him so much.
Absolutely, but it's blinded him.
Yeah.
It's blinded him to, like, the reaction that Hangman Page gets every single week. And I just been like, well, he's not a star. He just doesn't feel like a star at the moment. It's, but the point I was going to make there is that, like, you know, Ollie was saying that this is one of the weaker periods of time. We had that Ultrachat that said this feels like the weaker period of TV. I mean, the thing that we've got, the poll running, it's massively like weighted to 5 out of 5. So people really enjoyed this episode. But I am sat here being like, okay, Punk versus Caster was really good. Jay versus Moxley was really good. FCR versus the Ass Boys was really good. Danielson versus Yuta was really good. The Undisputed Elite segment was really good. Bunny versus Toni Storm was really good. The main event was really good.
Yeah.
How are people sat here being like, man, what an average episode of the show? Like, it's... I think AEW has spoilt us in terms of, like, constantly putting out, like, episodes that are, like, great match, 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 really good in-ring segment, really good promo segment sort of spattered in. That we've now become accustomed to that as the standard, so that now feels like an average show. Yeah,
and I think sometimes, genuinely, I prefer these kind of episodes.
Same here.
Where you just have some really good wrestling, and the wrestling furthers the stories, because that's what AEW does. They focus on the wrestling. I prefer these kind of episodes sometimes to some of the big blowaway episodes with the huge angles and the everything else.
You can't do this every week.
You can't do them every week. And sometimes I actually prefer these stuff because you get really good matches from pair-ups that you didn't know you wanted.
And like every match had a point. Every match furthered a story.
Yep.
And I would much rather that than watch a 2-hour show which has got short wrestling matches and pointless segments. And things that don't really go anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, this is a really well put together show. And I used to say this when I was back in my film reviewing days about the MCU. The MCU is a 4-star movie factory. Like, every movie you go out, you're like, it's probably going to be the next 4-star movie. Sometimes they end up being 5-star movies. Sometimes they are not. Doctor Strange, for example, I think is probably a 2-star movie.
I disagree.
But, like, okay, which is fair.
I like it.
I think it's pretty butt.
I like the way that he overcomes Dormammu, and it's not just through combat.
That's
and
good.
Big flashy
Yeah.
And the way he outsmarts a villain is like, that makes sense. He's Doctor Strange.
It is good. 4 minutes of a 2-hour movie.
Yeah. But, you know, it's a big deal. It's coming to overcoming the big villain.
The point is that, like, I think
the visuals are great.
We often sometimes take the MCU for granted to be like, oh, look, it's another 4-star movie out of the MCU. And, like, then that almost feels like that becomes the cookie cutter template. It's like, oh, yeah, great. It's another 4-star movie. But, like, really, if you kind of take a step back, you're like, oh my God, we're getting consistently 4-star movies out of this movie studio. And that's what I think with Dynamite here. Like, for me, this is a 4 out of 5 episode. And it's the next 4 out of 5 episode that we've had, like, since, I don't know, 2020. Great. Like, every single week I'm just getting consistently great television.
Yeah, I really don't have that much to complain about on this episode. There wasn't anything that I thought was particularly blow away amazing. There wasn't, like, you know, an angle of the year or anything like that. I don't think there was a match of the year contender. And there was some really good, solid wrestling that was a bunch of fun to watch, and it furthered some stories. Great.
So jaded. We did kick things off with CM Punk versus Max Caster. Man, what a reaction Punk got.
My first note is huge pop for Punk.
Oh, yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, so good. Really, really good match this. Probably not as good as the Dax match last week, but, you know, not many things will be.
It's amazing.
Punk hit a pile driver and the Anaconda Vice for the win. Not pile drivers tonight. It's like every match had bloody one of them.
It was great.
Yeah, it was a good match. I thought the Caster's rap promo at the start was pretty good, talking about Will Smith. You know, timely references, pop culture and whatnot. But the killer line was at the end where it's like, I'm going to make you crap your pants like a Z-Pack.
Mm.
Very, very good.
Very good stuff from Caster. And also, I like that Max Caster looked quite good in this match.
Mm.
Got a bit of offense in against Punk. Helps elevate him up. Helps elevate the Acclaimed up a little bit more.
Absolutely.
That's great. Yeah, big fan.
And then he cut a promo after the match saying that he doesn't know who the champ is going to be. But he said specifically after next week.
Yeah. Which is a bit weird.
It is, because I think Battle of the Belts is it April 6th? Battle of the Belts?
That is next week.
That will be next week, yeah. So I wonder if, like, on next week's show, they're going to announce it's Paige Cole 2.
Yeah.
And that will be at Battle of the Belts, which I think is like on a Sunday or something.
Sure.
So technically, it's he like a proper Palpatine does. Sorry, proper Obi-Wan does here. What I said was true from a certain point of view. But he is going to come for the title. That's what his whole like waist motion he was doing last week meant.
Absolutely. Which I really enjoyed Tony Schiavone being like, "So are you gesturing around your waist? What does that mean?
What does that mean?
What could that possibly mean, Punk? Please explain what you mean with your hands when you do that." And Punk was like, "Come on, Tony. You're smart than that."
Well, apparently it's the 16th. Is 16th. Battle of the Belts.
So it's a couple weeks.
Yeah. Come on, Punk.
Come, Punk.
Well, okay. Well, 2 out of 5 episodes, 70%.
But I thought this was a really good babyface promo from Punk. My note at the end of this segment was, he's a bit good, isn't he?
Great lines in this, man. It's about like he's got the grey in his beard. And by the time his AEW career will end, there'll be a lot more grey. I've got scars on my head, but by the time my AEW career ends, there'll be a lot more scars. By the time my AEW career ends, I will be AEW World Champion. Oh, that's good stuff.
Good stuff.
MJF was backstage with FTR with what's his name? Smart Mark Sterling putting up sort of like posters to block Wardlow from coming into the building.
Wardlow's been banned.
And FTR were wonderful in this segment here. I thought this was a great night to be an FTR fan.
I have heard a lot of people being like, "Oh, you know, I really like FTR as heels. I don't know if they're going to work as a babyface team."
I'm one of them.
They're going to be amazing baby faces. Are you kidding?
I'm so wrong. I am unbelievably wrong on this.
They are going to be such good baby faces. I think the one time we've ever seen them as baby faces is in the triple threat match with DIY and the Authors of Pain, NXT TakeOver Orlando. Don't quote me on that. When they did kind of like the team ups between the members of the Revival and DIY, like trading finishes and stuff, and that was just a little hint of babyface, and I went, they're going to be such good baby faces one day, and we've never saw it again until now, and I am pumped because I love FDR, and I think they're going to make amazing baby faces because they're really good wrestlers,
aren't they? Just
Oh.
and like the passion they've got for this, and like Dax, you know, sort of goes a bit solemn. He's like, you know, Wardlow was our friend, and like, you know, I think what you're doing to him at the moment is wrong. And then MJF just like, look, guys, I don't want to say this, but he was talking a lot of mess about you.
but that's not what we're going to talk about.
Absolute scumbag that
great.
MJF is. It was awesome. And then at the end, he's just like, when you're the pinnacle, you're on top. And they reluctantly put their hands in. But Dax's selling of all of this was so great. He's a really, really good actor.
He's fantastic.
We then got Jay Lethal versus Jon Moxley with Justin Roberts announcing that Jay Lethal is from Elizabeth, New Jersey. I popped.
Sure.
I popped, man. I thought it was really good. Good work, Justin. Another really, really good match this. There was a couple of amazing near falls from Jon Moxley, because they've been telling the story with Jay Lethal. He lost to Cole, and he lost to... who else did he lose to? He's lost to another big name on TV recently. He lost the TNT title match, and he lost the FTW championship match as well. So another name I am missing, everyone.
I think that was it, wasn't it?
I feel like there's another name he's had on TV recently, which he lost.
I thought that was against Starks.
No, it was, but like he lost against Cole, and he had another match on TV that he lost. I can't remember which one it is now. I might be thinking of that one, to be honest.
Maybe.
And then he had this promo on Rampage where he's just like, I don't know. Like, he literally was saying that I came in with a lot of fanfare, and not a lot has happened since.
And so saying Sammy Guevara, we mentioned,
yeah, Sammy was the other one. Yeah, I did think of that one.
Yeah.
And then it was so they kind of added a lot of intrigue going into this match as well, because this is another big name that he's going up against. They were throwing it a lot heavily. It's like, this is a former AEW World Champion up against a former Ring of Honor World Champion. There's a massively long Ring of Honor championship run that he had. And yeah, he got some wicked near falls into this, particularly when Moxley went to do the Bulldog Choke, and he reversed that for a near fall. And then when he hit the elbow drop as well, I was like, man, Moxley sold those near falls so good.
I'm liking that they're now telling a story with Jay Lethal as
Mhm.
opposed to
Oh,
him
yeah.
just kind of being there, just kind of having the name value of being Jay Lethal. Now they're actually doing something with him. Granted, the story is he's going on a losing streak. Isn't the best story around, but it's something, and it's him saying, you know, I've got to change my ways. I've got to change. Something's got to change. Was the line that he had from his promo on Rampage. Him not being able to win the big matches is something that's hopefully going to lead to a change of some description in Jay Lethal when he can actually start getting wins. Because now he's being treated kind of like as a legitimate, really good wrestler rather than just being around.
Yeah.
This made him look great, much better than I think he's been presented in AEW thus far. And this is leading to something hopefully good for him.
Just to clarify as well, because I did want to double check on this. He's not on a losing streak.
Well, okay,
but to your point, he's not winning his big matches.
That's what I mean.
He's winning all of his enhancement matches on Dark and Dark Elevation.
Yes,
but then when it comes to the big moments, he is buckling under the pressure.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So
that's what I mean. The losing streak on TV.
Yes, I think there's a really interesting story to be told there, and I love that. And I thought Moxley looked great in this as well.
Sure did, and I really liked that Mox didn't take the handshake beforehand. The handshake, the whole Ring of Honor thing with Jay Lethal, didn't take the handshake before, beat him up, won, then shook his hand afterwards. It was like, I like that.
Yeah. Then we got one of the women's segments that wasn't in the 15 minutes, which was Marina Shafir getting a video promo, and I was like, wow, okay. Cool, Marina Shafir, and then it made so much sense later on. I was like, that's why that was there.
Yep.
We then got FTR versus the Ass Boys, with FTR wearing the Scott Hall inspired jackets, which were really sweet.
Yep.
And MJF comes out for commentary, and Dax is sitting there, like, oh man, I really wish he didn't. I really wish he wouldn't come out for commentary. We talk a lot, and we have done over the last few weeks, about how good Dax Harwood is. Cash Wheeler, man. Oh. Do not be sleeping on my boy Cash.
He is delightful.
When he got that hot tag and rap, he was so great.
Both of them are amazing. And it always flips. You go one week and you're like, man, Dax is so great. Yeah. And then the next week you're like, oh, Cash is so great. They both have such an upside to them. I can't wait to see them as fully fledged babyfaces, because I think they're going to do an amazing job.
The Ass Boys did a great job of like selling all of their stuff as well. Interestingly, I really like this little wrinkle to it. The Ass Boys doing a lot of like FTR style tactics. When like it was Cash who was getting worked over, so he was going to like make the tag, and whichever one of the Ass Boys it was gets the tag in and does the slide round them to cut them off from their partner. Some really nice little wrinkles in there.
Also, I made a note here that I've been so impressed with AEW's ability to have a team that's turning babyface, being FTR, against an out-and-out heel team, with the heel commentator rooting for the babyface team, and all the dynamics still make sense.
Yeah.
How do they manage this? And there's also a babyface running that distracts the babyface team later on, and that still also makes sense. How do they spin all these plates at the same time? I'm genuinely really... I'll tell you how they do it. It's because they're actual characters and not, two-dimensional. Just like they don't have one note about who they are.
Early days South Park, just like crepe paper things just moving around. The MJF on commentary was very delightful because the Ass Boys kept cheating, and MJF started to be like, "Look at this cheating! Like this is."
Aubrey Edwards, the worst referee ever. How's she letting this cheating go by?
Standing against the immoral, like the immorality of like cheating. I thought it was really funny. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. Like towards the end of this match, Wardlow makes his way into the building, beats up a load of security guards. That
was great,
wasn't it? Just and Max is screaming, was like, "These security guards suck! Like, get better security guards!" And eventually, the security guards do manage to stew him. Like, loads of them pile on and drag him to the back, and that leads to the big rig for the win with FTR. And like MJF immediately not paying any mind to it. Like he just walks down to the ring pretending everything is absolutely fine, and he goes to raise the hand of FTR, and they again begrudgingly get on board.
They initially kind of like Dak kind of slaps MJF's hand away, and he's like stop letting this Wardlow thing affect our match, because they got distracted from Wardlow coming in and nearly lost, and then managed to come back and hit the big rig and win. So he's like, what are you doing? Like, stop having this distract us. And eventually MJF kind of talks them around and they celebrate together and they walk off. So leading still that kind of long drawn out FTR face turn. It's going to happen. And I'm excited.
I'm so curious to see what dynamic they'll do during the Briscoes match on Friday.
Yeah. Very curious.
Do you think they're winning?
Yeah.
I
100%.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident they're going to win the tag straps.
Yeah.
Got a great video promo for Hobbs versus Lee, which will be the main event of Rampage this week. Yes, please.
That sounds exciting.
Yes, please. I'm excited.
You're going to be reviewing that, aren't you, Luke?
I certainly am. I certainly am. It's going to be me and Ollie doing the SmackDown and Rampage review this week because coming in to do the WrestleMania live reactions, and I was like, I've got a hotel booked in London. I may as well come in now.
Yeah.
We then got a promo from the Jericho Appreciation Society. Do you have a point you want to make here?
No. Yes. Okay. So, I have really mixed feelings about the Jericho Appreciation Society. I think being sports entertainers in AEW is a brilliant heel move.
So good.
That's such good heel heat to be sports entertainers. You know when Ollie complained that they should have been sports entertainers when they wrestled? Where's the long rest holds? Where's the over-the-top posing and all that stuff? That I disagree with, because then you're just doing sports entertainment, which people don't want to watch. That's the point. You don't want to have bad matches. And I'm really into Eddie Kingston, as always. I'm into Santana and Ortiz, as always. And Jericho Appreciation Society are good. I didn't like this reveal of the doing the thing behind the curtains again, and they were there because they messed up the framing, Luke. They had Hager go across the curtain, and his arm was in the way, so you couldn't see anyone there. You need to position it better.
They did it with Daddy Magic as well, because he does there's no one behind this curtain. He reveals a bit. He's standing in the way of the camera. Jericho even says I think you need to let people see. The framing did leave a lot to be desired, but I had a proper giggle at this because last week Daddy Magic and Cool Hand Ange did the whole are they going to be behind these curtains? They're not here, and they weren't there, and they did the same thing again last week. Daddy Magic did it, and then Jake Hager is just guys, I am telling you, I am going to pull back this curtain, and they are not going to be there. Once I have revealed this curtain, you will see that it is empty, for there will be no one behind this curtain. There is not a chance in hell that there will be an Eddie Kingston. Oh my God, there's an Eddie Kingston here! really made me laugh.
Okay, so that, I think, the reveal, even with the bad framing, it was still a nice little reveal, and they had a big brawl and stuff, and that was fun. I felt like this beatdown segment did not need to be as long as it was.
It's quite long.
It felt like it went quite long. And babyfaces beat him up originally. They stand on top. They're setting up for the Street Sweeper. Heels come back. They stand tall. And then Kingston gets whipped with a belt. And then they beat him down some more. And I'm I feel like a couple of these minutes could have been shaved off and given to either another match or a women's segment. Something. It just felt like it went a bit long, and that's all. It was good. It just went a bit long for me.
It's one of those amazing things about Dynamite when I kind of the show finishes, and then I've done all my notes and everything, and then I start going about my morning to get myself ready to come to work. And I'm just sort of replaying things in my head, and I tend to think it's just wow, okay, first match got a lot of time. The Jay Lethal match and Moxley got a lot of time. Danielson, you got a lot of time. FTR and the Ass Boys got a lot of time. That main event got a lot of time. Actually, Storm and Bunny got a lot of time as well. And then at the same time, and that Jericho Appreciation Society segment went really long. How do they cram this into 2 hours and it never feels overstuffed?
Picture-in-picture ad breaks.
I don't even think it's that, though.
And good pacing.
Maybe it's that.
And no recaps.
But I do think you're right. This did slightly go too long, yes. I think, as a beatdown angle. But it did make me really, really want to see Kingston and Santana Ortiz make a comeback. Yeah. So they are doing a really good job of making me want to see them get their heroes win.
I am curious because they've really put over, commentary is really putting over the numbers game. There's too many of those bad guys in Jericho Appreciation. There's only 3 of them. There's 5 of them. Do you think that's building to more allies for Santana and Ortiz or Kingston, or do you think it's just they were just playing up the heel dynamic?
Man, if they bring Homicide in, as another guy, I mean, I was about to say you bring in Homicide and Hernandez and you have a super LAX, both versions of LAX in one team.
LAX 2.0.
I mean, I wouldn't be against it.
It would be interesting.
Say with Hernandez because Actually, you know what I mean? I was a proper mark for Super Max back in the day. I
I'm sure
really
you were.
was. I proper was.
Yeah.
This big old border toss. Don't give a toss where you land, mate.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be all right, I'm sure. Mark Sterling told Jade Cargill that there were 2 options for her 30th win, and so he went with the biggest option possible. The librarian, Leva Bates. And Leva Bates walks into the whole like, shh. And Tony Giovanni goes like, oh, sorry.
Or as Ollie called her in his review, Levi Bates.
Delicious sauce.
I don't like to call out Ollie a lot about the stuff he does, but I thought that was quite funny because he quite often gets people's names wrong, and he can't spell or pronounce a lot of things. Bless him.
Yeah. But Jade Cargill, because she's not a babyface, she's not a heel, she is certainly just Jade Cargill.
Yeah.
And for Jade Cargill, it's like, this is a joke. Like, Sterling is 100p a heel.
Oh, yeah.
But Jade doesn't feel the same level of heel that he is. So she's like, well, this is a joke challenger. This isn't good enough for me. And then he's like, okay, well, option B then is Marina Shafir.
Mm-hmm.
And he sounds like really sort of quite worried about that. Because like,
It's
the MMA fighter. And I think, oh, sorry, are you not confident in me winning?
Mm-hmm.
And you can see that he doesn't want to say, no. It's like massively put Shafir over as well.
Mm-hmm.
But Jade didn't sell like fear on it, but that didn't downplay any of it because like that's what you had Sterling there for. And she's like, "Oh, you bring your Marina Shafir, and I will go about doing my business." I thought this was a really, really good backstage segment.
This was great, yeah, because it kind of has come out of nowhere. It could definitely have come off as just like, well, that was a bit weird and random. But the fact they played the video package earlier, showcasing Marina Shafir, and the selling of the segment between Sterling and Cargill really made this work for me.
Absolutely. That video package really did help. Danielson versus Wheeler Yuta snapped the beards off of each other.
My God. This was
hell.
My match of the night, personally.
Yeah, do you know what? I was going to say it's FTR and the Ass Boys, but I think it might have been this one. Particularly, Yuta was so good. Like, Danielson is always great, but man alive, Wheeler Yuta in this match.
It was so good, because he had William Weagle on commentary, which was amazing. He is so good at his job. That job being putting over the people in the ring. Every little thing he was picking up on, like little calls that Excalibur was making, and he was just expanding upon that and being like, "Ah, yes, good call there, Excalibur, when you called out the
man in the mask."
Yeah,
good call there,
man in the mask. And then he
I like you.
Yeah, I like you. That's a great point. You see how he dragged his hand back there, how he pulled his hair and exposed the neck on that little hold, and just did these little things that made it feel so much more real. Really played into the whole gimmick of the Blackpool Combat Club. For some reason, I always want to say Backpool whenever I say Blackpool Combat Club. It just made everyone feel so legit, and not only was the crowd getting into Wheeler Yuta that made Yuta feel like a big deal, it was Regal saying on commentary, 22 years ago, I watched a match from Bryan Danielson, and I followed him because of that match, and now look where he is. I'm seeing the same thing right now with Wheeler Yuta in that ring, and I'm like, they're making Yuta feel like such a big star. From the presentation in the match, from Regal on commentary, the crowd organically getting into him, Danielson doing his best to put Yuta over. This was legitimately a star-making performance.
I completely agree with everything you just said, Ben. Like, and it was, the whole package here was superb. And like playing off in the tag match that they had a few weeks ago, where they went out of their way to make Wheeler Yuta the star of that match, did the same thing here. Danielson, man, he's so great. And Wheeler Yuta, it was just some of his transitions and stuff. And like the point you made about Regal, just to clarify as well, because there will be some people who haven't seen your SmackDown review where you would have said, oh, it was the NXT
It was the NXT one.
where you said William Weagle.
William Weagle.
It's only because just 2 seconds ago you were like, Ollie says a lot of names wrong.
I didn't even notice the irony.
You did it on purpose. I just wanted to make a note that you did do that on purpose.
I did.
But no, like I thought William Weagle on commentary, because he started off this match, being like, Bryan Danielson's the greatest wrestler on the planet. I think he's absolutely amazing. The more he watched this match, he was just like, oh, that's really good. That's really nice. Oh yeah, what he did there was really good. Oh, that's very special. And then by the end, he was like, I'm a Wheeler Yuta fan. Like, it was an awesome performance by Regal.
Yeah.
And I love him walking out every time he says like, Mr. Ross, Mr. Schiavone, always a pleasure. Man in the mask, nice to see you too. It's just, oh my God, he's so great.
He's so good at his job.
I love him so much. When Yuta transitioned out of the cattle mutilation into in the elbows of his own, this place came unglued.
They loved seeing Yuta, and I did as well. It was because Danielson had only just done his own elbow beatdown, and then Yuta transitioned it back into his own elbows. Crowd were like, yeah, get him, Yuta!
And then Danielson, almost offended by this,
then killed him,
was
as
like,
he does.
He goes to do the steppies, and Wheelie Yuta hocks the biggest loogie possible and spits in his face. It's massive, like Bret Hart to Vince McMahon spit in the face. But he did it up in the air. Could have easily just fallen back on his face.
Yeah.
We go right into Danielson's face. And he was like, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to step on you really hard then.
Hold on. Oh, you're going to spit. Hold on 2 seconds.
He just absolutely stomped the piss out of him and then hit a pile driver and then locked in the lapel lock for the win.
Like, he was already out when he locked in the lapel lock. He was like, I'm just going to murder you.
He murdered him after the steppies. He was like, I think I'll pile drive you now. And then I'll do my submission hold. Oh my God, it was amazing.
It was
I loved
really
it.
Good. What a match.
What
so
a
good.
match.
And this was one of those matches where when people were saying like, oh, it was a filler episode, didn't really advance stories. I'm like, this is advancing all of the story with Blackpool Combat Club. With the whole story with Wheeler Yuta potentially coming in, Regal becoming a fan of him on commentary, telling a story through a wrestling match. Give me so much more of this, please.
70%. Good video package for Darby versus Andrade. And then we got, I really love this segment, the Undisputed Elite. That is now their team name. They are the Undisputed Elite, which I don't love.
I don't think it...
I think it's better than Paragon.
I disagree. I think Paragon's better. Yeah. I like Undisputed Elite. It's okay. I think I would have preferred...
It's not snappy as Era, though, which is why...
No. I mean, it's the Elite name, which I suppose is the point.
And they get to do UE still.
Yeah.
I don't love it, but you know what? It's one of those things. I'll just get used to it and it'll be fine.
Yeah.
But they come down for their championship celebration because they took all of the belts last week. They took Hangman's belt and they took Jurassic Express's belts on Rampage. And this was pure goofy heel Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, and Bobby Fish. And it was so entertaining. They came out, they do their full entrance. Kyle gets to do his little guitar thing with the belt. And there's a box in the corner that's got party supplies written on it, top secrets.
Yeah.
And Adam Cole's like, oh, what's this? And Cole's like, oh, look, I got something for us. And he brings the box in the middle of the ring and he opens it up and like 5 balloons come out. Like, oh, yeah, that's great.
That was very good. Because the crowd originally popped when the first couple of balloons came out. They're like, oh, cool, something's happening. And then it's just like a couple of balloons go,
two
right.
more balloons.
And then a whole of Undisputed like, yeah, party time.
And they were cutting this promo saying, like, Paige and Jurassic Express aren't going to be here because they're embarrassed by what we did to them last week.
Just anytime anyone says they're not here tonight, I'm like, yes, they are.
But but in fairness, Jericho said that last week with Kingston, and I was like, well, that spoils the main event, and then they weren't there.
Yeah, that's true.
So I did actually think, like, oh, maybe they're not going to be here tonight. Now I'm just going to do this segment straight. Well, as straight as you can do with Cole Riley and a fish.
Yeah.
And Riley then starts cutting this promo, and he gets like too lightheaded because he had, and I believe this is a direct quote, too much champagne backstage. And he had to sit down. And so Bobby Fish takes over, is like, what my friend is trying to say, and just cuts this promo. And then Paige's music hits. And I love Bobby Fish so much. He's the unsung hero oftentimes of this group. On the mic says, why are you playing his music? He's not here. And then Paige came out in JBL's car for some reason. And
it's got the horns on the front, hasn't it?
He came out and beat the piss out of these 3 lads.
So this, for me, was where the segment wasn't as good. Because Paige just beat up all 3 of them. And I was like, oh, okay. And then Jurassic Express came out and then beat up all 3 of them. And I was like, oh, all right.
The heels got their comeuppance.
Yeah, but you didn't need to have one man beat up all 3 of them.
It made him look awesome, though.
And it made them look bad, I would argue.
I don't think it made them look bad. They got blindsided.
That's what I got from it, was that they looked bad.
I thought they got blindsided by it. I think you can easily make up for it. And they did escape all of the moves. And I was like, it's not like we haven't seen them escape the moves before or get beaten down in these sorts of segments before.
Like, Cole escaped the buckshot, which was good. Definitely agree that he should not have hit that. But just before, like, Hangman just kind of ran wild, hit a fall-away slam on Cole, did, like, big springboard clothesline to the other guys and knocked them all to the outside. And I was like, I mean, Paige's getting a lot of offense here, and they're doing nothing at all. And I was like, they're kind of bad. Like that was the vibe I got leaving this segment. I was like, oh, they're kind of not very good.
Yeah,
Rather than Paige looking good, it was them looking bad. And I think it crossed the other line for me.
It's interesting because I actually thought that everyone came out of this looking really great. I actually thought they came off as great as obnoxious heels, and Jurassic Express and Paige looked like the big superhero baby faces. I thought this was an awesome segment. But maybe Ollie is right. Maybe that Hangman Page isn't a star.
I'm not disputing that. That is undisputed, Luke.
Thunder Rosa got to cut her promo that she didn't get to cut last week. I don't know why they just let her do this in Texas, where it would have got a bigger reaction.
Yeah.
But hey, you know, them's the cuts, I guess.
She wants to be the face of all women's wrestling.
Mm-hmm. She had a really nice line in here about how, like, I'm not a pillar, I'm a foundation. That was really, really nice, because that actually then played into Nyla Rose's promo later on, which was so good. FTR cut a promo as well, challenging the Young Bucks to a match to find out who really is the best tag team.
I really enjoy this because I think Ollie's right in his review here when he said FTR challenges the Young Bucks. I'm sure it's going to be a great match. They're challenging to see who's the best tag team, who aren't the champions, or contending for the titles. Because the best tag teams should probably be the champions. Which, like...
No, like, I as an argument, I totally get. But they are arguing themselves. Like, every tag team thinks they're the best tag team on the planet.
For sure.
So, it's not AEW are telling you that this is the best tag team and the Young Bucks are the best tag team on the planet. Mm-hmm. Like, commentators will make those arguments. And, you know, but the wrestlers themselves, every wrestler says they're the best. Adam Cole said he's the best wrestler on the planet. And Redragon said they're the best tag team on the planet. Like, it's what everyone says.
Yeah.
I don't think I fully buy that.
Fair enough.
I think this is the whole deal of their feud, spanning back all those years ago, which is who really is the best tag team on the planet.
For sure.
And neither of them were tag team champions when they were doing that. And they weren't even in the same promotions.
For sure. I think it's a fan perception that they are probably two of the better tag teams in the world.
But they can't be tag team champs forever.
Of course they can't. And I think that having the feud to determine who is the best tag team in the world should probably be champions
But they're not. That is just their pride saying that.
I don't think it is, because it's playing off a fan perception that they are the best tag team in the world, and you should have the feud in kayfabe in the company. It should be about, you know, the subtext behind it can be the fans believe these are the two best tag teams in the world. We're going to find out who the best one is. But in reality, in kayfabe in the company, they're not, because they're not the champions. Does that make sense?
I mean, it does. I just don't buy it. I don't buy it as an argument, really. But perhaps, you know, people will say it's just my AEW bias shining through, maybe. I don't know.
And maybe I just hate wrestling.
I just don't buy it as an argument. The Bunny and Toni Storm had their match. Then Nyla Rose got to cut her promo. And Tony Khan, I know you're watching.
As he always does.
You always do.
Yeah.
So if you do happen to have made it this far into the episode, just dump Vicky Guerrero from this act.
Yep.
Nyla Rose does not need Vicky Guerrero as her mouthpiece, because I think, if anything, Vicky Guerrero is dragging down Nyla Rose. Because Vicky Guerrero cuts a promo that is just, and then Nyla Rose grabs the mic and cuts this promo, and I'm like, oh, cool, well, now I want to see the match. Because Nyla Rose is really, really great.
Nyla Rose is such a good promo, and she's been proving that every week. Anytime she gets time to talk, she is so good. Have you seen her Twitter account?
She is a must-follow on Twitter.
It's great. So yeah, I think that, Rose is being held down by Vicky Guerrero. Vicky Guerrero is not needed in this act. I don't think she adds anything. I think she detracts. Nyla Rose needs to be by herself.
Really does. And then in our main event, Andrade, El Idolo, and Darby Allin beat the piss out of each other. Mostly before the bell actually sounded.
Oh yeah, big brawl.
Man,
this one.
Andrade, dang good. He looks massive as well at the moment.
He's really put on some proper poundage, all in muscle, by the way.
And they were like battering each other around ringside. There were lots of really awesome spots around that. And then the actual match itself was also really, really great. Mm-hmm. It was a lot of Andrade being the bigger guy, like swatting around the much smaller Darby Allin. But Darby has got this intangible quality, you might say, where he has got that plucky, never give up attitude. Mm-hmm. And when he got into that slapping match with Andrade, it was so great. And the key to it is Andrade was never like he didn't lose that so much because he's the bigger guy, and it was that final slap from Andrade proper took him down. But Darby gave him such a good fight in it. In the end, Butcher and Blade ran down and beat up. Oh no, sorry. Jose tried to run down first, and then Sting stopped him. Then the Butcher and Blade ran down to beat up Sting, and then there was a big dive onto them, and then Andrade hit the Hammerlock DDT for the win. So Andrade, I would say, finally picks up a big win on TV.
Desperately needed.
Desperately needed.
And I think it was definitely the right call to have him win here. And I think you can still Darby's still somewhat protected with the distraction, because Darby, he didn't really need to jump Butcher and Blade. It's because they came down and beat up Sting that he was like, I need to rescue Sting. So he went out and kind of dived onto them to try and take them out, kind of thing. So Darby almost distracted himself more than anything. And then Andrade just capitalized on that and got the win, which was great. So yeah, I like it.
I do hear the argument. We had this in Ultrachat earlier, talking about how like I'm kind of sick of seeing Darby and Sting facing up against these guys. I mean, the feud's it's been running since probably February. It was probably the first time Andrade was like the little kid and like wanted to bring him into like. So they haven't been feuding for. I mean, they've been feuding for a long time, but it is a storyline that they have changed up multiple times over because Andrade then was joining Hardy, and he had the big Hardy split, the Jeff Hardy debut and stuff. So I feel like it is a storyline that has gone on for months, but it has had multiple twists and turns in the narrative that it hasn't felt like this has just been the same thing week after week.
I think the sentiment probably comes from the fact that they've had multiple big matches.
Yeah.
They've had multiple, we had an 8-man tag, we've had a 6-man tag, it was on pay-per-view.
And now we had another 8-man tag.
Had another 8-man tag, and now we've got Darby versus Andrade. Like, these are all the big, what you'd expect to be the blow-off matches to this feud, and then the feud has carried on. It's probably where the sentiment comes from. I don't think it's actually been that long, like you, I agree, but it's just that it feels like we've reached the climax of the feud. Granted, because the narrative has then changed and things, but we've had big blow-off matches, and then the feuds haven't blown off, essentially. I think that's probably where the sentiment comes from.
Bit of an update as well on the Dave Meltzer thing. So Andy messaged me to say that it's fake news. He never actually said that. And someone, Rob, one of our moderators, has shared the tweet where it came from, which is someone saying that he believes that Cody Rhodes will be at WrestleMania, and said that people are close to him saying that it's possible he will back out of it. But some people say maybe he said it on Denise's prediction stream, but Andy's saying that it's nothing else that he's been able to verify.
Well, there's a video of it apparently.
Okay, so it was on Denise's video. It was on Denise's prediction stream.
Apparently,
there you go. Andy, watch Denise's prediction stream. Get that quote up, mate. Righty-ho. Let's get into your Patreon shoutouts, Pete.
Yep. I didn't forget them either. These ones are very important.
It's actually very important as well because they're doing amazing work as usual here, and we need to shout them out because we have got the greatest moderating team in the history of live streams on YouTube, on Twitch, on the BBC, anywhere in the entire world. I challenge anyone to find a better moderating team than the one we have.
Yeah.
I mean it as well. They rule. And I'd like to shout out Amanda,
Andy,
Brandon,
Chris P,
Chris R,
Gregory,
John,
Les,
Nad,
and Rob.
Thank you guys. You are the backbone of this place, and honestly, it would probably fall apart without you.
100%.
Because we got a rowdy bunch of people watching these streams.
This chat would not be anywhere near as good if the moderators weren't here.
If anything, it'd be like the fight chat. Like the fight TV chat.
Oh my god, that stuff is awful.
Oh, dearie me.
Jesus, yeah.
Right, where is our moderator?
There it is.
I've got it. I've got it right here. Got it. Yep. Scrolling.
Combat
I've
Club.
got it. Evil Wizard said, William Regal is the Stephen Fry of pro wrestling, and the Blackpool Combat Club is the most dangerous thing to come out of Lancashire since Eggy Thump. Love you guys. Jam that jam. Evil Wizard. That is my Ultra Chat of the day. Thank you very much. Kevin says, I'll eat my humble pie, Pete. I somehow forgot that you indeed can advance storylines through a match. By the way, Ollie said that Brian didn't shake Yuta's hand because he didn't fight hard enough. My take on this is because Brian is still a heel and Moxley is still a face.
100% agree. This is what I'm saying. It's what I was mentioning earlier about the dynamic still making sense. Moxley and Danielson are still two separate people. They make their entrances separately. When they're tagging, they tag together, get business done, leave. Like there's no bromance between them. There's no like, oh, huggy, we're the greatest friends or anything. There's still currently there's been no face or heel turn from either of them. They're just fighting. So Danielson is still a dick, and Moxley is still has that kind of level of respect to him.
Tenrose said, I want to be Regal when I grow up. Incredible scenes. Yuta, Bryan, Moxley, Miro in the G1. Pretty please. Good luck this weekend, lads. It will be fun. Cough, Beer 52, cough. Feeling the FOMO big time here in Melbourne, Australia. Can't wait for the live reactions. Love you. We love you, Tenrose. Thank you always for joining us on these streams. Bobby G, hey guys, I had a thought while watching the Lethal Moxley match. Jay joins the Blackpool Combat Club. Thoughts?
I don't know if I want to see that, I'll be honest. I would prefer it to be more of the Wheeler Yutas and the Daniel Garcias, more of the younger talent that Moxley and Danielson, with their established names, can foster and help create stars out of. I don't think Jay Lethal needs that.
Yeah, I could see it more being Lethal going back, well, not back to Ring of Honor, but like, you know, when Supercard of Honor comes to an end, he goes down and challenges the winner of Gresham and Bandito.
That sounds fun.
Probably likely going to be Gresham. Do you want a hot tag over?
Indeed. Tails P said, do you think AEW is setting up Jade's first loss to Blue Pants? Also, seeing the real Eye of the Storm reminds me how much I miss Kevin's package pile driver. Yeah. Storm Zero, yeah, now the pile driver version. Big fan.
No, I don't think Jade's first loss will be to Blue Pants.
I would be stunned if that is the case. Omar Josue said, I understand not having much faith in how AEW books their women, and I agree, but I do feel that the deeper the women's roster gets, it'll become undeniable and force TK to see how it's portrayed and book them better because of the talent at hand. Now, this is halfway through the Ultra Chat, but I am going to stop without reading ahead because I disagree. Have you seen WWE's roster? It is possible to completely mistreat an entire roster. It's possible. Aside from that, ever since FTR had their Toronto match with DIY, they've been my favourite tag team, and seeing them in AEW and all the work they've done / are doing right now makes me very happy. Babyface FTR, potentially managed by Brett, is gonna be amazing.
Oh yeah.
Can't wait for that. The Raven Effect has been a member for 8 months in a row. Thank you so much.
With a great name as well.
Yeah. There's a lot of talk about Bret Hart coming in to manage FTR. Do FTR really need him, though? They look amazing. Don't think Nyla needs Vicky either.
Completely agree on the Nyla Rose thing. I think with Brett, it's a case of, like, it's for FTR. It's more for them as people to be like, oh my god, I'm being managed by Bret Hart.
I do genuinely think, as great as FTR are, and as big as stars as they are, I still do think they get something from being managed by Bret Hart. There's still the oh my god, it's Bret Hart and FTR. There's something there. There's that connection there to make it meaningful. Bacon Rasher says, hi lads, Ollie has turned into such a WWE mark waiting for Cody. Dynamite was packed with great in-ring action, and as a wrestling fan, that's what I want, along with story progression. 4 out of 5 show. P.S. LIW is fine, of course, and I want that Blackpool Combat Club hoodie. Me too.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting tidbit as well. When they first named the Blackpool Combat Club, I was probably the only person in the planet that went, I don't really like the name.
I think I was listening to Stephen Larson's podcast. I'm not sure they were massive. I can't quite remember. I don't want to quote them on that, but I do remember hearing some people think it wasn't awesome. We also had someone message me and being like, "Oh, Regal's got no connection to." But I was like, "Oh, he's quite famously from Blackpool."
From Blackpool. I will say now though, it has most certainly grown on me. It was just at that initial reaction, I was like, and then after that, I was like, actually, it's pretty good.
Just to go over the poll, which we didn't do earlier either, 47% thought this was a 5 out of 5 episode, with 39% thinking it was a 4 out of 5 episode, and 10% thinking it was a 3 out of 5 episode. So that is huge.
Massive.
Massive it is.
Dude 630 said, in the same way WWE has numbed us to incoherent and terrible TV, AEW has spoiled us in so much amazing TV that I'm pretty sure most full spectrum of wrestling-based TV is way beyond off. Anyway, her name might be Bunny, however, she is a workhorse.
She is doing such good work in making other people look awesome.
For sure. Anthony David Brewer said, imagine Kingston, Santana, and Ortiz and Mox and Danielson versus Jericho Appreciation Society. That could be how Garcia joins Moxley and Danielson in the Blackpool Combat Club. That would be cool.
That's good. I like that.
That's real good. Zachary T. Robinson said, how appropriate that Blue Pants got called Levi Bates in the edited review. Great little Freudian slip, Ollie. Really enjoyed AEW this week. Give me Soho versus Storm in the Owen tournament, please, and thank you, Jam That Jam. That sounds fun.
There you go. Owen Scullified here said, pretty sure it's in Denise and Meltzer's latest podcast. Yeah, it was Denise Salcedo's WrestleMania predictions. If you want to go check it out yourself, you can do over at Denise Salcedo's YouTube channel, which is always full of wonderful stuff.
There's another great video over there of SmackDown Showdown with
I still haven't seen your one yet.
Me and Tempest. It's weird.
Denise said it's the hardest she's probably ever laughed in her life.
That is all due to Tempest.
Is it really?
That is all Tempest doing in the lewd round at the end. That is all Tempest doing. So watch till the end because it is very funny.
Ten Rosa as well, also mentioning the Denise video there. Again, it would be hilarious if it is Shane. Imagine Cody shows up at Super Card of Honor to be the co-owner. Harry Nelson said, Logan Paul said on his podcast with Dana White that he's looking to do WWE full-time. Thoughts? Look, here's what I think. Here's what I'll say about Logan Paul. When the Gronk came into WWE, my reaction to that was, couldn't care. Mm-hmm. Don't care because I don't watch the football. Right? No. So I've no idea who this lad is. Mm-hmm. I don't care. And then he comes out and he's wearing these suits and he's doing this dance. I'm like, well, he's a prick, and I don't like him.
Yeah.
Logan Paul is someone who I've never seen. The only thing I've ever seen Logan Paul do is the stuff he's done in WWE. So that is pretty much my only frame of reference. However, with Gronk and with Logan Paul, what I can appreciate is that, I don't know who they are, but loads of people do. It's Bad Bunny, isn't it? I've never heard a Bad Bunny song, but I recognize that he is a massive name. So if he's going to be working with WWE full time and he's all right at it, fair play. And I'm hoping then it really pays off for WWE and it brings in an audience that they might not have had previously.
I have stopped. I've been trying in my reviews and comments about wrestling lately to not talk so much about business decisions and what's a good business decision and what will impact the ratings and stuff like that. I'm more trying to focus on what makes a good TV show. Is this a good wrestling show? And Logan Paul is a guy who, personally, I'm not a huge fan of. However, the stuff he's done in WWE, I think has been pretty good. He's a really obnoxious heel, and he makes a good person to beat up. And he seems to want to, or enjoys being beaten up by the babyfaces, which is more than I can say for some other people that have come into the company. So that's a positive for him, I guess.
Absolutely. The Jam 1 Jam Beard said, so the guy who gave us WrestleTalk's worst storyline in the All Authority thinks that the great stuff in AEW is bad. Surprise, surprise. First, Hangman is a bad champ, then Lee lost in the shuffle, and now women are boring. Make Ollie review NXT instead.
Hold up. Are you saying the All Authority was the worst storyline we ever did? Because the numbers show that it was the best thing we ever did. Just saying.
We were all on the we were on the WrestleTalk channel at that point, weren't we?
Yeah.
The numbers would have been inflated by that.
Nope. It was just us being great.
Kevin said, so hang on. Pete beats Luke fair and square at the Royal Rumble. Ollie wins an interim belt. Mm-hmm. Luke beats Ollie for that, then claims to be the real champion. The words of Luke are himself, what a babyface.
This is what I've been telling you, Luke. Since you won this title, I've been telling Luke that he's a heel.
Pete, it just winds you up.
You're such a heel.
Pete's the interim champion, I know that.
You won with the Jam in the Jar.
Which is not a heel move, Pete.
It is a heel move.
To win with Money in the Bank is not a heel move.
Yes,
Pete.
That's why the Money in the Bank, since baby faces have started doing it without it being a heel tactic, it's been bad.
What?
Yes.
Are you high?
No. The Money in the Bank is inherently a heel thing to do. Yeah. When they just started treating it like
you're absolutely right. When Dolph Ziggler used it and got that amazing baby face pop, it really was.
He's a heel.
And it was a baby face moment.
Because
for
people
him.
wanted to see him win.
All right, okay. So when CM Punk did it on Batista, when he was a babyface,
when they started treating Money in the Bank like it was a babyface thing to do to sneak up behind your opponent and cash it when they least expected it, it's bad. That's a heel thing to do. I'm sorry, that's a hill I will die on. That is a heel tactic. And when they initially, when Money in the Bank was first introduced, it's better when it's a heel. That's what they did at first, because it's a heel thing to cash in and not earn a championship opportunity. That's the point of it. That's why it's a heel thing.
I think that's wrong there, Pete. Tell me you weren't watching wrestling when the Money in the Bank first came around before, without telling me that you weren't watching wrestling when Money in the Bank first came around. That is not the case of Money in the Bank, I'm afraid, there, mate. Case being the operative word there. Jesse Venable said, "Hey guys, Monday Night War has been one of my favorite segments to watch on PFK. Cheap plug. It's been a fun ride over the years watching the WrestleTalk crew grow. I play my GM mode too, and the power cards and free agency are the two biggest difference makers in the game."
Good to know. We're still figuring it out.
Yeah, we really are.
We don't know what we're doing on that game.
Tails B, hey Pete, if your championship is the real championship, does that mean that before facing you or Andy, Adam has to win a championship contenders match? Also, is there 0% chance Seth comes out of here and I said, I hear your battle cry starts playing? Oh, because it's not going to be Kenny Omega.
No.
He signed an extension with AEW.
Sure
I mean, and Adam won the Jamble.
He won the Jamble.
Yeah.
Andy won one Jamble, Adam won the other, which is how they both have shots at this.
Andrew Fergan said, "All hail our tribal Pete, not an imposter. That is all."
Correct.
And wonderfully, Benjamin Gabriel has become a member. Excellent work. Thank you very
so
much. And Dart Train 24, happy birthday, Peanuts.
It's not. Please stop.
Peanuts.
Hate all of this. Thanks, guys.
Do you know what I don't hate? Surfshark VPN. Click the link in the video description down below or the one that's being shared in the chat by our wonderful moderating team. Get yourself 83% off using our promo code WTPodcast and 3 months extra for free. It's a great service. WrestleMania is this weekend, and if you're not in the UK or a place where you can get the proper network, this is a great way to get the proper network experience, and you don't have to deal with Peacock's utter balderdash. Until then, everyone, I have been Luke Owen, DAD. That's been Peanuts. Jam that jam.
It's not my name.